All right. So this next one is, well, again, it's out of Georgia. What's going on, Georgia? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
This video, actually, more or less, it was a photograph that definitely went viral. And that was the Georgia state trooper who pitted the gentleman who was involved in a sideshow, ran some pedestrians over. And it was a very short vehicle pursuit that ensued after the fact. And this trooper used his vehicle to a pit maneuver again to stop the truck, gets out of his patrol car, jumps over the hood of his car and rips the driver out of that car, detains him on the hood of his patrol car, which somebody happened to be there and took a photo of it. I'm sure you guys all saw it. We're looking at it right now. And again, you've got a couple different outlets out there on social media saying, hey, this is, really cool. Georgia's probably never going to have another shortage of officers again. Look, again, I'm not trying to sit here and be the Debbie Downer of all this stuff. We are, like, we say it all the time. Like, we try to take these videos and these photos and like truly give you like an unbiased opinion and not emotionally invest ourselves in how cool things look or turn out to be. We just try to evaluate it based on, tactics, what went right and what could have been done a little bit differently, because I'll pitch this to you. Did that look cool? Yeah, it did. It looked really cool. I mean, the guy looked like a fucking badass, jumping over the hood of the car, ripping the dude out of the truck and handcuffing him, right? By himself, all by himself, right? But what if he didn't? What if that driver pulled out a gun and shot that officer in the face? Are you going to say that it's cool then? Because those things happen all the time. And it's happened here in our own hometown where we work. Several officers have been shot and killed here for doing things like that. And you just can't sit back and go, okay, well, that was really cool. And now you're promoting other officers to do that and behave like that. And then that one time when someone decides that they're not going to go with the program, pull out a gun and shoot you in the face when you're running up to their car. So let's talk a little bit about, there's a lot of trending videos right now on social media where cops are rushing up to cars after a pursuit is over, not using their cars for cover to call people out. So what's your take on it?
Well, after it went viral, news outlets reached out to that agency, and then a captain came on and was quoted saying this. Captain Michael Burns quoted saying, "The trooper performed a pit maneuver and forced the F-150 over a curb, disabling the vehicle. A felony stop was conducted and the driver was taken into custody." He then later said, quote, "The trooper followed his training," and then again says, "Once the driver fled the scene, it was important to get the driver stopped so there wouldn't be further damage." I have a problem with all of what he said, but I watched that video, Kyle, a lot, multiple times. And here's my perspective of that. There's a sideshow. That truck is doing donuts at an intersection. There's spectators everywhere. That's a risk that is involved in that. The truck gets ready to leave, and out of nowhere, here comes that state trooper in kind of like a slick top type of vehicle, the lights and siren. There's a lot going on at that intersection, and the truck drives off. I'm not 100% convinced that truck was going pursuit. I think the truck processed like what was happening. There's someone behind him. Then he realizes it's a patrol car. But at that point, the truck kind of like jukes like left and right, and then the patrol kind of car kind of jukes left and right, and it's a short distance, and then the pit maneuver is done. I'm not convinced that truck was going to go pursue. And here's my thought on officer safety. I've made traffic stops in situations where there's a big crowd and it's scary, and that's not smart. I would rather have followed that truck a little further and got away from that crowd, because that crowd is supporting that. They're there watching those donuts. I would have preferred that officer follow that truck away a little bit and then make a stop, but he didn't. And this is where we're at. And then he jumps out and jumps up on the hood of the car with his gun out. I don't like that either, because you have your gun and you're trying to do this maneuver and getting up on a hood, hoping you don't drop your gun. You don't need your hand placement someplace. And then you're using one of your free hands to grab a hold of somebody. We don't know what that guy's capabilities were in that truck. He could have shot him, or he could be decided to fight the officer. And now you're fighting an officer with a gun out on the hood of a car. Like, there's no good scenario in that. that was careless to me. I'm not sure what training he was following. That was just wild. And to be honest, I think the officer got very lucky that crowd didn't surround him and do like a rescue of that suspect. But ultimately that suspect that was arrested for felony hit and run, felony evading, and then
a host of felonies. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he ended up, I think it was 10 people he ended up hitting with this truck. One was serious injuries,
which is terrible. I mean, here's the reality of these sideshows. I mean, we get a lot of them, around here in this area. And I'm telling you, that's not something you want to show up to by yourself. That's not even something you want to show up to with 5 or maybe 10 other cops. I mean, that takes a lot of resources, because you're right. Though the crowd will turn on you in a heartbeat. And you said it, they're there to support that type of activity. Am I supporting or are we supporting that? These folks that got ran over? No, I'm not. Mm-hmm. We're absolutely not supporting that. That's tragic. And people do get hurt at these types of events quite often. And the reality is he needed to be stopped. Okay. So a truck driving in that manner, he needs to be stopped. I agree with you. I'm not so sure I would have wanted to do that in that moment, but let's just take it back and say that he had to do that in that moment. I hope he had more resources there available to him to immediately react. But one thing with these sideshows is you got to have resources for those things. And if you want to kind of be the hero in the whole, your own story, and go out there by yourself and target these locations, if you know they're going to happen, I just would strongly advise not doing that. If you know these things are going to occur, or they do occur quite often, then I would get as much backup as you possibly can. If you have air units available, get the air unit up, get the license plate of that vehicle. You can go later and write warrants and seize these vehicles for 30 plus days and get them that way. But if you're out there trying to enforce those laws on your own or in small numbers, be very careful because he is very lucky that crowd did not emerge on him. And I probably think the only reason they didn't was because he did plow all those pedestrians over. Mm-hmm. And those people even probably thought, okay, this guy needed to be stopped, which he did. And so using the whole police vehicle as a technique to pit or police intervention technique to basically essentially ram a vehicle in a strategic way. There is case law on that, and that is the courts rule that is reasonable, right? If you have to use your police vehicle to basically be an interdiction device to stop a moving vehicle, then that's fine to do. But let's use our cars as cover when we're either at the conclusion of a vehicle pursuit and you use a pit maneuver, or even at the conclusion of any pursuit. If a car stops on its own, I don't know why there's all these videos out there, the need to rush up to these cars. And it to me, it all circles back to emotions, and cops are letting their emotions dictate their tactics. And I can't stress that enough. I see it all the time. You can't allow yourself to do that. If you are in a pursuit, and let's say, however long it is, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Okay. Make it up. And that car comes to a stop and that person doesn't want to get out of that car. Okay.
Yeah.
You have a vehicle barricade at this point, and we have tools and things that we can use to get people out of a car very easily without having to approach it. So the thought of this person is trying to elude you for whatever reason, maybe you don't know, oftentimes you don't know, it now comes to a stop. And then your first thought is to run up to the car with zero cover to try to rip someone out of a car. Again, I'm going to say it again. We've lost cops in this area for doing things like that. And so we don't promote it. We don't advocate it. Again, I want to give a shout out to a couple social media platforms out there who are advocating not to do those things. And again, Police Post, and then another is Kinetic Concepts. So if you guys don't follow them on Instagram, go on there and follow them. They're constantly providing training tips and playing these videos for you. Don't pay attention to the pages that are putting this stuff out there and they're promoting this stuff and they're saying that it's cool. Don't jump on that bandwagon because I'm here to tell you, folks, you're setting yourself up for failure if that's the case. Because if you get into a bad situation, the people that run that social media site are not going to come and save you, and they're not going to testify on your behalf. So think about that.